before we get rambled on and caught up too much in football, there's a couple other sports we're going to get to today. So we'll start with the Nebraska soccer team. Matt, why don't you get us set up so we can get you set up here so you don't have to try and be an expert for these next couple. I was the one who got to be there and see these next couple up hand. So why don't you set us up with what happened this weekend with Nebraska soccer?
A big weekend in Nebraska soccer, beating Michigan State early and then also beating number 14 Denver. They hold a 6-2-1 record. RPI is 20th. And Northwestern and Illinois this weekend. What do you see from this team going forward, and can we expect them to be a team that, I guess, contends for a Big Ten title?
They've said it all along, and even me right away, Mr. I've predicted they're getting back to the NCAA tournament each the last couple of years. And at some point I realized that through the first couple games that maybe my ideas or maybe this team, with injuries, with depth, with just the way people are performing, that might not be the case. But this year it's a completely different team. It's a completely different way that they execute. It's completely different ways. I mean, they're not just getting goals and shots against the teams that they should beat. They're not just winning 2-0 against teams they should beat or 3-1 or just kind of having some things. They're completely dominating shots on goal. Corner kicks, they've kind of slipped off a little bit in, but that's just because they're getting so much pressure down the middle that they're not generating those looks on the outside because they're just opening teams up. They just got players all over the field who are not only making plays, but who are confident in their position, know that they're going to be in that position. Last year, there's a lot of position battles. There's a lot of people moving around. You didn't know if Jordan Jackson was going to come back from injury. Then she does come back from injury, and then she gets hurt again, gets the medical red shirt, is now back for her senior year. So there's just a lot of those situations up in the air. And because of those position battles, because of the people moving around, because of injuries and just youth in a lot of other places, Nebraska lost a lot of these close games. And Katie Kreutner had the first goal in a comeback win over number 14 Denver this week. And I asked her about it afterwards, and just the look on her face when you say, last year in those one-goal games, and it's just a sarcastic smile that you can just tell she just remembers that they know they could have done better, and they know they could have made a difference in a lot of those one-goal games. And, Michigan State team, a team that they've had troubles with so far in Big Ten, it's just kind of one of those gritty teams. It's never in the top 25. It's never one of those nationally ranked teams, but they're just a good team. And in the past, they've had problems with those. This game, obviously, rain played a huge deal on it. Anytime you start a game, then within the first 2 minutes, it's delayed to lightning. That's going to play a little bit into it. But the weather kind of, it turned around in the second half. It cleared up a lot. There wasn't any rain in the second half, and they still held on. And they still kept the clean sheet, and they got the 1-0 win. And the early goal by the freshman is huge. Just not only because she scored, but because it was set up by Jordan Jackson. It was a product of Nebraska's system, and it really is. Again, I'm going into Bo territory here, but it was them executing exactly what they want to do. And they say they want to get their strikers, whether it's Mamie Conroy, who's a bigger, stronger, or J.C. Johnson, who was just named the Big Ten Freshman of the Week for the third time. She's just speed. She's just speed and skill, and she can just get any sort of space. They're trying to get them in space constantly. And so to be able to generate one of those, 15, 20 minutes into the game, move the ball around, and then get a good look at goal, and your freshman puts it away, you couldn't write it out any better. And so just the way they're able to turn that around, they're holding on for that win, not going to extra time. Even going to extra time and getting the win would have been a little bit different and would have not had the same luster that it had. Like, oh crap, we held on, but there's still something to talk about. But they held on, they got the job done. Then they come out the next, against Denver. Denver's good, and they're not as good as their 14th ranking suggests. And the assistant coach Peter Underwood afterwards says we didn't want to see it as an upset because we see ourselves as being that caliber of the team. We see ourselves as being on that level. But they came out. They controlled a lot of the pace of play and where the ball was going and the type of chances that were generated. And Denver had some chances, but as Coach Underwood said again too, it's just because the ball was in their end, and that's when Nebraska wasn't able to clear. So it wasn't their system broke down. It's just when Denver is able to get some people forward, when they were able to, and they have a player in Kristen Hamilton that's one of the top scorers in the country. It's one of the top offensive players in Denver history, and was on a top 15 team. Is the reason they were that highly ranked going in. She just got the ball at her feet, makes a move on a defender, and put one near post and just beat the keeper. And that stuff happens. That's why you got to get it out of that end. And so it was just one of those things that just happened. It was against the pace of play. It was just a run that happened. But how they responded, scoring in 15 seconds off the clock. Turn around, I don't know if for those of you who don't know, they stop clock on goals in college soccer. It counts down rather than just being a running clock like other soccer. So it's not as impressive as, if they were 15 seconds in, they'd hustle the ball back to them, probably like a 5-second goal. But, stop clock, so they start clock, make a couple runs, and the ball comes all the way through on the back post. It wasn't a fluke goal. It wasn't like that. It was a great run, and the ball comes through to a backdoor runner who'd been making that run all game. And as I go back through and I look at some of these different pictures and I look at what Nebraska's doing, you see people making diagonal runs in front of the ball all the time, and you see people, just a ton of people in the frame moving around. And it was that movement that gave them that goal. And then they come back again. they moved the ball to the other side, and this time, instead of the run just the ball coming through the box and someone scoring on the backside, it was just a header in the middle of the box. So the first goal is a cross that comes through. Nebraska scores because they're making a backdoor run. The second goal is a cross that comes through from the other side. Center forward just come down the middle. J.C. Johnson again gets a head on it and puts it over the keeper. Nebraska gets those 2 goals, and like Michigan State, they held on for a 2-1 win. So just the way that they were able to impose their system, it wasn't a fluke. It wasn't like Denver messed up. It wasn't like anybody gave them anything. Nebraska took the 2 wins this weekend and improves them. Improves their record. It gives them a lot of confidence going into Big Ten play. And I really do think that they're not just looking at getting back in the NCAA tournament. They want to make a run at a conference title. They want to make a run at pushing into the national rankings. And they got the freshmen. They have, a strong senior class. Probably one of the best senior classes in the Big Ten. They have freshmen of speed and talent, not just starters like Johnson, but they have some people coming off the bench. And Nebraska it's going to be a big year for Nebraska soccer.
Mm-hmm. And coming from behind to beat Denver, obviously a good team, coming from behind to beat them 2-1, is that something that you're noticing, I guess, different from last year's team to this year's team, where they can, kind of, while they're facing adversity, come back and come from behind, I guess?
I would say that the difference is J.C. Johnson and Jordan Jackson. That last year they had a lot of those guys who were in the role positions. They had a lot of the people who, in the defense that could do these kind of things. But like Amir in the UCLA game before it all kind of turned away, that Amir is that one guy that showed, that said he wanted to step through and do something. That's what Jordan Jackson's like. And up front with J.C. Johnson, she's just too young to know that she shouldn't be doing these things. And she's just too young to know. And so she's just playing with that confidence of a young player who's not hit the wall yet. And I don't know if she's ever going to hit the wall. She's that good. So just having a young player with just that sort of confidence to just keep making those runs, and then having a senior in the middle that just knows that if we just stick to it, we're going to get that goal. We're going to just keep with our system. And I think that those two things give everybody else the confidence to play. So it's not just that they're there. It's their impact on everyone else. Katie Kreutner used to have to move over in the middle to kind of generate more offense when tense things moved up, and they'd do a lot of subs of people who were playing out of position. A lot of those freshmen who subbed in last year as forwards aren't on the team anymore. And so they have some new freshmen this year who just are more composed, who are more confident on the ball. And so I just think that confidence and just that sense that we can do this as a team, and not just that they can do it, but actually they've done it so far, I think is making the big difference.
Mm-hmm.